Some Remarks on the Representation of Magnitude. May 14, 1787. Everyone experiences daily, though they may not pay attention to it, that magnitude is a relative concept, i.e., that we measure all magnitudes according to a customary or the nearest available standard of measurement. From this general experience, many particular everyday phenomena can be explained. That we perceive a room that is not high as longer than another of the same length and width but greater height comes, I believe, from nothing else. The nearest standard for measuring the length and width of a room is its height. When the height is small, and thus contained often within the length, we take it to be larger. In a higher room, by contrast, our standard of measure is not as often repeated in the length and width, and therefore it appears smaller to us by a natural effect. For the same reason, a vertically standing object, for example a rod, may appear shorter than when lying horizontally. In the former position, we have no intermediate objects for comparison, while in the latter there are many that we can compare it to. It should only be noted here that in both cases, the object must not lie too far from the eye, for a distant horizontal object appears smaller to us due to an optical observation, because the so-called visual angle is smaller, while an upright object appears larger for the opposite reason. This is also the reason that, in clear weather, the moon appears farther away when rising because of the abundance of comparable intermediate objects than when it stands directly overhead, although we usually perceive it as larger at moonrise, which can be explained by the abundance of vapors that refract the rays. But such illusions occur not only with distances, we can observe the same with time. The duration of a journey seems to pass much more slowly when we are on our way to a destination than on the return trip. Also, afterward, the same feeling remains with us, because the representations of the many objects along the way cannot be united into one general representation, but we must think of the journey as a series of representations if we are to properly recall it. From books, on the other hand, especially those that are not historical in content, there often remain only general impressions, although this may vary greatly depending on one's faculties and inclinations. Miners, Letters on Switzerland, Volume 1, Letter 6, page 371. When, apart from the lofty peaks of the highest mountains, the whole surrounding landscape is covered in night, the illuminated summits appear much lower than usual and at the same time as close as if they bordered the nearest valley. Notes. 1. The relativity of magnitude reflects early insights into psychophysics, anticipating later work by Ernst Weber and Gustav Fechner. We judge size not in absolute terms, but by comparing dimensions to familiar standards, e.g., height, the nearest standard, serves as a unit repeated mentally when assessing a room's length and width. 2. When a rod stands vertically, we lack adjacent objects at comparable height for reference, so it appears shorter. Lying horizontally, it aligns with other horizontal surfaces, floorboards, tables, making it seem longer. 3. The visual angle is the angle subtended by an object at the eye's nodal point. A distant horizontal object yields a smaller visual angle and thus appears diminished, whereas an upright object subtends a larger angle and seems larger. 4. Atmospheric refraction near the horizon, caused by denser air and vapors, makes the rising moon's image slightly magnified, the so-called moon illusion, even though its true angular size remains constant. Intervening objects, trees, buildings, further reinforce its apparent proximity and scale. 5. The subjective dilation of time on a journey where the outbound leg feels longer than the return trip is a cognitive effect studied in modern psychology. Novel stimuli, representations of the many objects along the way, prevent forming a unified memory, so duration is recalled as segmented and lengthy. 6. Christoph Meiners, author of Briefe über der Schweiz, Letters on Switzerland,
combined travel observations with philosophical commentary. His Letter 6, Volume 1, page 371, describes nocturnal mountain views under moonlight, noting perceptual distortions when only peaks are illuminated. 7. In clear night conditions with valleys shrouded in darkness, illuminated mountaintops lose depth cues, lack of shadowed bases, so they appear lower and closer as if adjacent to the nearest valley, due to diminished contrast and absence of foreground references.